Imagine this, you wake up, make breakfast, kiss your husband goodbye, the house is quiet, the children are laughing, and then something in your mind snaps. A voice whispers that you must do the unthinkable, not out of hatred, not out of rage, but because you believe with every broken piece of your soul that it's the only way to save them. Andrea Yates was a nurse, a mother of 5, a woman who rocked her babies to sleep and tucked them in at night, but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. One doctor saw coming, one her husband witnessed firsthand, and one the legal system would later struggle to define. Postpartum depression, psychosis, delusions so powerful they convinced her that drowning her own children was an act of mercy. This isn't just a crime story, this is a collision of faith, mental illness, and a healthcare system that failed her at every turn. Why wasn't she stopped? How could a mother do this? And, most haunting of all, did she even have a choice? The truth is worse than you think. June 20, 2001, 9:17 a.m. The last normal moment of Andrea Yates' life is already over. She doesn't know it yet. No one does. But inside her mind, a voice, one she believes is God, has just given her an order. Drown your children. Save their souls. Do it now. This wasn't a snap decision, it wasn't rage. Andrea Yates had been drowning long before she held her children underwater. Postpartum psychosis had eroded her mind like termites in a foundation, silent, relentless. She'd tried to tell them, the doctors, her husband, even the preacher who warned her she was raising children of Satan. But no one listened, not until it was too late. They sent her home anyway, gave her pills she'd later flush down the toilet. Because that's what you do with demons, right? You drown them. Paul was first, 3 years old, still in pajamas. Andrea called him to the bathroom like it was bath time. Maybe he thought it was. He kicked. Of course he kicked. The human body fights to live, even when it's your own mother holding you under. John came next, 5 years old enough to ask, why? Mommy, she didn't answer. Couldn't. The voice was screaming now, hurry, before they sin, before it's too late. Luke was 2, Mary just 6 months, and Noah, sweet Noah, 7 years old, ran. He actually ran. Andrea chased him, dragged him back, held him down while he sobbed, I'm sorry mommy, as if he'd done something wrong. When police arrived, Andrea was soaked, hair dripping, arms scratched. She didn't cry, didn't scream, just pointed to the bedroom where she'd laid them out like broken dolls. I did it, she said. I finally did it. The question wasn't how could she, it was how couldn't she. When God himself tells you to kill your children, who are you to say no? This is the story of a man who loved his wife, but didn't hear her screaming for help, not when she tried to overdose on pills, not when she begged him to never leave her alone with the kids, and certainly not on June 20th, 2001, when he kissed her goodbye, handed her the baby, and went to work like it was any other Wednesday. The signs weren't subtle, they were neon. After the birth of their 4th child, Andrea tried to kill herself, twice. She was hospitalized, diagnosed with severe postpartum psychosis, and pumped full of Haldol, an antipsychotic so strong it turns patients into zombies. And then they sent her home, to 5 kids under 7, to a husband who thought mental illness was just a fancy term for needs more prayer. Traditional, right? Because nothing says holy family like a wife who hears voices telling her to stab the Crips. Enter Michael Voronecki, a fire and brimstone preacher who lived in an RV and sold doomsday pamphlets. Rusty invited this man into their home. Let him counsel Andrea as she spiraled. And what was his advice? Your kids are too loud, too sinful. You're failing as a mother. So Andrea did what any broken woman would do. She believed him. This wasn't just neglect, it was sabotage. And Rusty, he kept taking business trips. The day before the murders, Andrea's psychiatrist did the unthinkable. He took her off antipsychotics, cold turkey. And Rusty, he left for work the next morning like clockwork. Never mind that Andrea hadn't slept in 72 hours. That she'd been muttering about the mark of the beast on the baby's scalp. That she'd called him at 3 a.m. begging, don't make me be alone with them. It took Rusty 20 minutes to drive home after the call. 20 minutes to see what happens when everyone, doctors, preachers, husbands, looks the other way. The tragedy of Andrea Yates isn't just about a mother who drowned her kids. It's about a world that watched her sink and handed her the weights. March 12, 2002. The world wanted blood. The prosecution called it the most evil woman in America. The defense said she was already in hell. And the jury, they had to decide, was Andrea Yates a monster or was she just gone? It was the perfect soundbite, proof Andrea planned it, except there was no such episode. The show's producers testified under oath it didn't exist. Deeds lied, but by the time the jury found out, Andrea was already in prison. Texas didn't just want to convict Andrea Yates, they needed to, because if a mother this sick wasn't guilty, then the system that failed her was. The jury saw the MRI scans, her shrunken frontal lobe, the part that says don't drown your babies. They heard how she changed Mary's diaper after killing her because psychosis has its own twisted logic, and still, when the foreman stood up to say guilty, half the courtroom cheered us. 4 years later, their truth finally mattered. The deeds lie exploded the first trial. New psychiatrists testified Andrea thought her kids were Satan's larvae. Even the prosecutor admitted she believed Noah was the Antichrist. This time, when the jury voted not guilty by reason of insanity, no one cheered, they just cried. Andrea Yates never walked free, but her case ripped open Texas insanity laws, forced doctors to take postpartum psychosis seriously, and made every crazy woman headline a little less smug. The cost? 5 tiny graves. And a question that still haunts us. How many more Andreas are out there right now, holding their babies a little too tight, waiting for someone to listen? The verdict was justice, but it wasn't mercy. Mercy drowned in that bathtub. Andrea Yates' children would be adults now, maybe parents themselves. Instead, they exist only in court transcripts and the nightmares of a nation that still can't decide, was this a crime or a symptom of everything we refuse to see? Postpartum psychosis still strikes 1 in 1,000 mothers. Right now, another woman is hearing voices. The family is dismissing it as baby blues. Another Rusty Yates is saying she'll snap out of it. Will you be the one who looks away? If this story unsettled you, good. Share it, talk about it, because awareness is the only thing that stops history from repeating.